Welcome back. This is Mrs. Colson, and today we are going to learn about the Pythagorean Theorem. So we use the Pythagorean Theorem when we have a right triangle. And I know this triangle is a right triangle because of this corner right here. It makes a perfect square. So what that means is that is a 90-degree angle. On a right triangle, the two sides that make this 90-degree angle are called the legs. So this side and this side make up this angle. This is a leg and this is a leg. We also call these side A and side B. So we could flip these around. This could be side B and this could be side A, as long as A and B are the legs. So these could be either or. This is our 90-degree angle, our right angle. And then this side over here, the side opposite of our right angle, so completely opposite of it, this is called our hypotenuse. This is called side C. The hypotenuse is always the longest side, and it is always opposite the 90-degree angle. So across from the 90-degree angle. This is our hypotenuse. We're going to use this information to find the missing side lengths on a right triangle. So let's go ahead and look at our notes and fill in some of the information we just went over. So in a right triangle, the two sides that form the right angle are called the legs. And we saw that just a second ago. So this is our right angle, this is a leg, and this is a leg. The two sides that form this right angle. The side opposite the right angle, so completely opposite of it, this is called our hypotenuse. I'm going to label it over here too. In the real world, so in real world problems, the hypotenuse is often called a diagonal. So it's a diagonal line. So if you read the word diagonal, you know that they're talking about the hypotenuse. So this is just another visual of what we just went over. It says in a right triangle, the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs. So here's a leg and here's a leg. They form the right angles, or the right angle. Here's a leg. So if we square those and add them together, it is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. It's equal to this side here, the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So we use this is the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We use this to find the missing length of a side on a right triangle. This only works for a right triangle. We have some steps we're going to follow. First, we need to identify what A, B, and C are. Remember, A and B are always your legs. C is always your hypotenuse. Identify what side is missing. So what side are we trying to find? And then we're going to substitute these values, so what A is, what B is, and what C is, into the formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. We're going to simplify, solve for the variable, so solve for that missing side. And then our very last step is to take the square root of both sides. So remember, take the square root. That's that little sign that looks like this. And the reason why we do that is because the inverse of squaring a number. So this is a number squared, A squared, B squared. So the inverse, so the opposite of squaring a number is to find its square root. So that's our very last step to figure out what the missing length is. All right, now that we went over the steps, let's go ahead and use these steps for our first problem here. It says find the length of the missing side. So our first step says identify side A, B, and C. So we need to label these sides. I always start with my legs first. I find my right angle, and I know that this side and this side make this right angle. So these are sides A and B. You could label them either way. This could be B, and this could be A, or this could be A, and this could be B. It doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna label this side A, side B, and then the side opposite the right angle is side C, our hypotenuse. Now that I labeled those sides, I need to identify what side is missing. Well, if I look right here, this side is missing. I don't have a length for the hypotenuse, so that's what I'm solving for. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug those values in. I'm gonna plug those values in over here. Side A is 24 inches. Side B is 7 inches, and side C is what we're solving for. So that's our unknown. Now I'm going to take those values and we're going to substitute them into our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I'm going to write the formula out first so that it's easy for me to see where it needs to be plugged in. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Plug in A for A, B for B, and we're solving for C. So I have 24 squared plus 7 squared equals C squared. So I don't know what C is, so I just leave that just like that. Now I need to square these numbers, 24 squared. So we can use our calculator, use the square button, 24 squared, and we get 576 plus 7 squared. 7 squared is 49. Bring everything else down. Now we need to add these two numbers together. So when I add 576 plus 49, we get 625 equals C squared. So we are almost done. We are on our very last step here where it says take the square root of both sides. This is telling you what C squared is, but we don't want it squared. We just want to know what C is, what this missing side is here. So in order to undo this square, we need to do the inverse, which is take the square root of that. So I'm going to find the square root of this side, find the square root of this side. By taking the square root of a number that's squared, it undoes it. And the square root of 625 is 25. And that is our answer. C is equal to 25 and our units is inches. So I'm gonna just plug that in, inches. Okay, let's try another one. Again, our very first step says we need to identify side A, B, and C. Find my right angle. The two sides that make up the right angle are A and B. Or you could have put this as B and this as A. Does not matter with the legs. The side opposite the right angle is side C. So I know side A is 30 feet. Side B is 40 feet. And side C is our unknown. We don't know what that is. That's what we're finding. We are finding our hypotenuse, side C. So I'm going to take those values, plug them into the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared, so that's 30 squared plus 40 squared equals C squared. 30 squared is 900 plus 40 squared is 1600 equals C squared. Now we need to add these two numbers together and we get 2500 equals C squared. We're on our very last step where we have to take the square root of both sides. So when you take the square root, this undoes itself. And now we have C equals the square root of 2,500 is 50. So C is equal to 50. I'm going to rewrite this as C equals 50 feet. Our units is feet. And we are done. We found our missing side. We found side C. For our next one, let's go ahead and label our sides. So I find my right angle. These two sides make up the right angle. So these are our legs. These are A and B. I'm going to label this side A and this side B. The side opposite our right angle is our hypotenuse, C. I'm going to plug those values in over here. I know that A is 40. B, we don't know. That's our unknown. And C is 41. So now that I have those values, I'm going to plug those into the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared is 40. So 40 squared plus B. We don't have B. That's our unknown. So we just leave it as B squared equals C squared. So that's 41 squared. So now we're going to simplify 40 squared. So again, you can use your calculator, type in 40, hit the squared button, plus B squared equals, now we're going to do the same thing for 41 squared, 41 squared. And we're almost done. Remember, we're solving for the variable, for B squared. We want to get B squared by itself. So think, how do we do that? We know how to solve and get a variable by itself. We need to move this to this side. How do we undo this over here? Well, it's positive 1,600, so we're going to subtract 1,600. And whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So this cancels out, and now we have 1,681 minus 1,600. So that leaves us with just 81 equals B squared. Last step, take the square root of both sides. That undoes this and leaves us with just B equals 81 squared. Or take the square root of 81, and that's 9. And our units is inches. So side B is 9 inches. Sliding on over, go ahead and identify side A, B, and C. I see my right angle right here. So this is side A, this is side B, this is side C. C is always the side opposite your right angle. So as long as you have side C right, this could be B and this could be A, or this could be A and this could be B. Doesn't matter as long as you have C right. So A is our unknown, B is 12, and C is 15. We're going to take those values, plug them into the Pythagorean Theorem. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A, we don't know what A is, so it's going to say A squared plus B squared, so that's 12 squared, equals C squared, 15 squared. We're going to simplify. 12 squared. 12 squared is 144. 15 squared, 15 times 15, that's 225. And we're solving for the variable. We want to get A squared by itself. I need to undo this right here. So we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract 144 from both sides, because whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we have A squared equals 225 minus 144 is 81. We are almost done. Our last step is to take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. This undoes itself and becomes A. The square root of 81 is 9. And our units is centimeters. So we know that side A is 9 centimeters. That's what we just solved for. Our last two examples are two word problems. So our first word problem says the diagonal of a TV measures 52 inches. So there's that key word, diagonal, 52 inches. If you remember previously, up at the top of our notes, it said in real world problems, the hypotenuse is often called a diagonal. So right there, we know that this length is our hypotenuse. That's C. C is always our hypotenuse. The height measures 20 inches. What is the length of the TV? So then it gives us the height. So we can plug 20 in for A or for B. It does not matter. I'm going to plug it in for A, and we're going to solve for B. We want to figure out the length of the TV. So now I'm going to plug those values into our formula. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared is 20 squared plus B squared. We don't know what B is, so it stays B squared, equals C squared, 52 squared. Make sure you write your 2's small when you're squaring something so it doesn't look like 522. You don't want to get confused with that. 20 squared, 20 times 20 is 400 plus B squared equals 52 squared. So again, you can use your calculator. 52 squared, 2,704. Solve for the variable. We want to get B squared by itself, so I need to undo this here. I'm going to subtract 400 from both sides because whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we have B squared equals, when we subtract those, we are left with 2,304. Very last step, take the square root of both sides. Now I have B equals the square root of 2,304, square root button, is 48. Do not forget your units. Our units are inches. So we know that the length of the TV is 48 inches. All right, last example that we're going over says the diagonal of a desk measures 30 inches. So again, there's that key word, diagonal and 30 inches. Diagonal is our C, that's our hypotenuse. The length measures 24 inches. What is the height? So we know our length is 24. I can put 24 for A or for B. Either way, we will get the same answer. We will find that missing side. So this time, I'm going to put 24 for B. Again, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared, that's what we're solving for, so it's going to stay A squared, plus B squared, that's 24 squared, equals C squared. That's 30 squared. 24 squared. 24 squared is 576 equals 30 squared. 30 times 30 is 900. Want to get the variable by itself, so I need to undo this right here. It's adding 576, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 576 from both sides because whatever we do to one side, we must do to the other. So we have A squared equals 324. We are almost done. Very last step. Take the square root of both sides. Squaring a number taking the square root of a number that's squared undoes it. So now we have A equals the square root of 324 is 18. And our units is inches. So the height of this TV is 18 inches. Okay guys, that is how you use the Pythagorean theorem to find the length of a missing side on a right triangle. Remember, this only works for a right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A and B make up your legs. They make up the right angle. Side C is your hypotenuse. It's always going to be your longest side, and it is always opposite your right angle. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye.